Marcus Cole shoved the hospital door open and froze. His fiancée stood on the bed directly over his 8-year-old daughter's head. In her hands, a 500 ml IV bag. She was spinning it like a lasso, the plastic tubing snapping taut with each rotation. Thwack, thwack. His daughter Zara lay curled into a ball beneath her tiny hands clamped over her mouth, tears streaming down her face in complete silence. Diana leaned down and whispered something into the child's ear. Then she laughed a sound that made Marcus's blood turn to ice. The woman he trusted with his daughter's life was slowly killing her. But what Marcus didn't know yet was far worse. He had signed the permission himself. Comment below what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Marcus Cole adjusted his silk tie for the 3rd time in 2 minutes. His fingers wouldn't cooperate. 53 years old, worth $400 million, and he couldn't tie a simple Windsor knot without his hands shaking. "Daddy!" The small voice made him turn. Zara lay in the hospital bed, her dark skin looking ashen against the white sheets. 3 years ago, he'd walked into a foster care facility in South Chicago and seen a 5-year-old girl sitting alone in a corner drawing pictures while other children played. Something in her eyes, that quiet resilience, had grabbed his heart and wouldn't let go. Now his daughter looked like a shadow of herself. The autoimmune disorder had struck 4 months ago, and every week she seemed to fade a little more. "I'm right here, baby girl." Marcus walked to her bedside, forcing a smile. "Daddy's flight got moved up. I have to leave for London a little early." Zara's hand found his sleeve. Her grip was weak, trembling. "How long?" "Just 4 days. Maybe 5. He stroked her braided hair, noticing how thin the braids had become. "I'll bring you back something special. What do you want? That doll from Harrods you saw online? The one with the purple dress?" Zara didn't answer. She just stared at him with those large brown eyes, eyes that used to sparkle with mischief when she'd hide his reading glasses or put extra sugar in his coffee. Now they held something else. Something Marcus couldn't quite name. "She'll be fine, honey." Diana's voice floated from the sofa near the window. "I'll take wonderful care of her. I always do." Marcus turned to look at his fiancée. Diana Mercer, 41, blonde, elegant in a cream cashmere sweater. She sat with her legs crossed, peeling an apple with a small knife. The peel came off in one continuous ribbon, perfect and unbroken. "I know you will." Marcus walked over and kissed her forehead. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Diana. Honestly. These past 4 months." "Shh." Diana pressed a manicured finger to his lips. "That's what family does. Zara is my daughter too now. Or she will be once we're married." The door swung open without a knock. A heavy-set black woman in nurse's scrubs entered carrying a tray of medications. Her name tag read, Constance Williams, RN, head nurse. Deep lines were carved into her face, and her expression held all the warmth of a Chicago winter. "Time for her injection." Constance didn't look at Marcus or Diana. She walked straight to the bed, her thick fingers already reaching for Zara's arm. "Wait." Marcus stepped forward. Constance pulled up Zara's sleeve and swabbed her arm with alcohol. The needle went in fast. Zara whimpered, her small body flinching. "Hey." Marcus grabbed Constance's wrist. "I said wait. Can't you be more gentle? She's in pain." Constance looked up at him. Her eyes were hard, unflinching. "The medication needs to be delivered quickly to be effective, Mr. Cole. If you coddle her too much, she won't get better." "Don't tell me how to—" "Marcus!" Diana was suddenly beside him, her hand soft on his shoulder. "Nurse Constance is just doing her job. She has Zara's best interests at heart. Don't you, nurse?" Something passed between the two women. A look Marcus couldn't interpret. "Of course," Constance said flatly. She withdrew the needle and pressed a cotton ball to Zara's arm. "I always have the child's best interests at heart." She gathered her tray and left without another word. "I don't like her," Marcus muttered. "She's too rough, too cold. I should talk to the hospital administrator." And say what? That the nurse is efficient. Diana laughed softly. Darling, you're stressed. The flight, the shareholders meeting, Zara's illness, it's all weighing on you. But everything is under control here. I promise. Marcus's phone buzzed. His assistant's name flashed on the screen. I have to take this. He stepped toward the door, then paused. Diana, thank you. Really. For everything. Diana smiled that warm, reassuring smile that had first attracted him at a charity gala 2 years ago. Go save your empire, Marcus. I'll save our daughter. Marcus answered the phone and stepped into the hallway, his mind already shifting to profit margins and shareholder concerns. Behind him, the room fell silent. Diana's smile faded the moment the door closed. She returned to the sofa, picked up her apple, and continued peeling. The blade caught the light as it circled the fruit. Zara watched her unmoving. Stop staring at me. Diana didn't look up. It's rude. I want my daddy. Your daddy is busy making money. That's what daddies do, especially ones who adopt charity cases like you. Zara's lower lip trembled. Don't say that. Say what the truth. Diana finally looked up. Her eyes were cold, calculating. You think Marcus Cole adopted you because he loved you? He adopted you because it looked good in the newspapers. Billionaire saves orphan from South Side. Do you know how much positive press that generated? That's not true, isn't it? Diana set down the apple and stood. She walked to the bed, her heels clicking against the tile. Look at you. Sick, weak, a burden. If it weren't for your mother's trust fund. She wasn't my mother. She was Marcus's ex-wife. She left you $3 million in her will anyway. Wasn't that sweet of her? Diana leaned down until her face was inches from Zara's. And when you turn 18, or rather if you turn 18, that money becomes yours. Unless, of course, something happens to you first. Then it goes to your legal guardian. Zara's eyes widened. What are you saying? Diana straightened up and smiled. Nothing, sweetheart. Just thinking out loud. Now be a good girl and take your nap. You look tired. She returned to the sofa and picked up her magazine. Zara lay frozen, her heart pounding against her ribs. She wanted to scream. She wanted to call for help. But who would believe her Diana was perfect? Everyone loved Diana. The door opened again. Marcus rushed back in, grabbing his briefcase. Sorry, baby girl, car's waiting downstairs. I'll call you tonight, okay? He kissed Zara's forehead quickly. Love you. Daddy, wait. But Marcus was already heading for the door. Zara's hand shot out, her fingers catching his jacket sleeve with surprising strength. Daddy, please. Marcus turned back, frowning. What is it, sweetheart? I really have to go. Zara's other hand moved beneath the covers. She pulled out a piece of paper, crumpled, folded multiple times, and pressed it into his palm. Her eyes were wild, pleading, desperate. Her lips moved, forming words she couldn't seem to speak. Her gaze flicked toward Diana, then back to Marcus. What's this? Marcus unfolded the paper. A drawing. Black crayon on white hospital stationery. A tall woman with long fingers like claws. A tiny girl beside her. The girl had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. That's quite a drawing, sweetheart. Marcus frowned. Is this from one of your nightmares? Dr. Patterson said the sedatives might cause bad dreams. His phone rang again. London calling. I have to take this baby. Marcus quickly folded the paper and stuffed it into his coat pocket. We'll talk about this when I get back. Okay, I love you. He was out the door before Zara could respond. She watched him go, her arms still extended, her mouth open in a silent scream that no one would hear. The door clicked shut. Diana set down her magazine. Well, she said softly, that was close. She stood and walked to Zara's bed, her eyes fixed on the girl's tear-streaked face. What exactly did you draw on that paper, Zara? Zara didn't answer. Diana reached down and grabbed her jaw, forcing her head up, I asked you a question. Nothing. It was nothing. You're lying. Diana's fingers tightened. I can always tell when you're lying. Your left eye twitches. Did you know that? Please, you're hurting me. Good. Diana released her and stepped back. Let this be a lesson. Your daddy is never going to believe you over me. He doesn't have time to believe you. He's too busy counting his money and attending his meetings and feeling good about himself for saving you. She returned to the sofa and picked up her phone. Now, I'm going to order some dinner. And you're going to eat every bite even if it makes you sick. We need to keep up appearances, don't we? Zara turned her face to the wall and let the tears fall silently. 4 months. 4 months of this. And no one believed her. No one would ever believe her. Marcus's town car crawled through downtown Chicago traffic. Snow was beginning to fall, light flurries at first, but the forecast predicted a major storm by evening. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing since he left the hospital. Board members, investors, analysts, everyone wanted a piece of him before the London meeting. But his mind kept drifting back to Zara's drawing. The faceless girl. The woman with claws. He pulled the paper from his pocket and studied it again. Zara had always been artistic. Before she got sick, she'd spend hours drawing colorful scenes, flowers, butterflies, their house in Lincoln Park with its red door. This was different. The lines were harsh, pressed so hard into the paper that the crayon had left indentations. There was something frantic about it. Desperate. Everything okay, Mr. Cole? Marcus looked up. His driver Raymond, 62 years old, former Marine, 10 years with the family, was watching him in the rearview mirror. Fine. Just something Zara drew. Kids draw strange things sometimes. My granddaughter went through a phase where every picture had monsters in it. Turned out she was scared of the neighbor's dog. Right. Yeah. Marcus folded the paper and put it back in his pocket. Probably just the medication. They arrived at O'Hare International 2 hours before his flight. Marcus checked in, went through security, and settled into the first-class lounge with his laptop and a double espresso. But he couldn't focus on the quarterly reports. His mind kept returning to the hospital, to Zara's eyes, to the way she'd grabbed his sleeve like she was drowning. He picked up his phone and called Diana. "Hello, darling." Her voice was warm, cheerful. "Miss me already? How's Zara? Sleeping like an angel. The nurse gave her something to help her rest. She seemed upset when I left. She always gets a little clingy when you leave, you know that. But she's fine now. I read her a story and she calmed right down." Marcus exhaled. "Good. That's good. Focus on your meeting, Marcus. I'll send you pictures of her tomorrow. Maybe we'll do her hair. She's been wanting braids with those little gold beads. She'd like that." Marcus smiled. "Thanks, Diana. I don't say it enough, but I couldn't do any of this without you." "I know, darling. Now go conquer London. I'll hold down the fort here." Marcus ended the call feeling better. Diana was right. He was being paranoid. The stress of the past 4 months, Zara's diagnosis, the endless doctor's appointments, the board's pressure to step back and delegate more, it was getting to him. He opened his laptop and forced himself to focus on the numbers. 2 hours later, an announcement crackled through the airport speakers. "Attention all passengers, due to a historic blizzard affecting the Chicago metropolitan area, all outbound flights have been suspended indefinitely. Please contact your airline for rebooking information." Marcus looked up. Through the lounge windows, he could see the runways disappearing under a blanket of white. Snow swirled in violent gusts, reducing visibility to almost nothing. Around him, passengers groaned and reached for their phones. The lounge devolved into a symphony of complaints and frantic rebooking attempts. Marcus sat still. His first thought was frustration. The London meeting was critical. Months of preparation, millions of dollars on the line. But beneath the frustration, something else stirred. Relief. He didn't have to leave her. Marcus gathered his things and headed for the exit. His driver was already waiting at the curb, having anticipated the cancellation. "Back to the house, sir." Marcus hesitated. "No, St. Jude Hospital." "Sir?" "I'm going to surprise Zara. Stay the night with her." Marcus climbed into the back seat. "She shouldn't be alone." "She's not alone, sir. Miss Diana. Just drive Raymond." The car pulled away from the curb headlights, cutting through the swirling snow. It was nearly 2:00 a.m. when they arrived at St. Jude. The hospital looked different at night, the cheerful bustle of daytime replaced by an almost oppressive silence. Emergency lights cast long shadows down empty corridors. "Do you want me to wait, sir?" "Go home, Raymond. I'll call you in the morning." Marcus entered through the main lobby. The night receptionist barely looked up from her computer as he passed. The elevator carried him to the 12th floor. VIP wing. The hallway stretched before him, dimly lit and utterly silent, except for the soft hum of medical equipment behind closed doors. As he approached the nurses' station, he noticed Constance Williams standing alone in the shadows. She wasn't sitting, wasn't checking charts, just standing, her eyes fixed on the security monitor on her desk. Their eyes met. Something in her expression made Marcus slow down. Not hostility this time. Something else. Something almost like warning. But she didn't speak, just watched him pass. Marcus continued down the hall. Room 1204. The door was slightly ajar, a thin line of light visible at the edge. He was about to push it open and announce himself, "Surprise baby girl, daddy's home," when he heard it. Squeak. Squeak. Metal against metal. A rhythmic, grating sound. And beneath it, something else. A soft, tittering laugh. High-pitched. Unnerving. Not Zara's laugh. Diana's. Marcus's hand froze on the door. Every instinct screamed at him to burst in, but some primal survival mechanism made him pause. He pressed his eye to the crack in the door. The scene inside made his heart stop. Diana stood on the hospital bed. Her bare feet pressed into the mattress on either side of Zara's body. In her hands, she held a 500 ml IV bag, the one connected to the catheter in Zara's hand. She was spinning it, like a lasso. The plastic tubing stretched taut with each rotation, then snapped back, yanking the catheter buried in Zara's tiny hand. Thwack, thwack, thwack. Zara lay beneath her, curled into a fetal position. Her small hands were clamped over her mouth. Her eyes were squeezed shut. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She was silent, completely silent, trained to make no sound. Diana leaned down her lips, brushing Zara's ear. "That's it, sweetheart. Stay sick. Stay weak. You're my meal ticket. You understand? If you get better, your daddy won't need me anymore. And we can't have that, can we?" She yanked the tubing hard. Zara's body convulsed, but no cry escaped her lips. "Good girl. You've learned so well. 4 months of training, and look at you, silent as a grave." Diana laughed again. That same tittering laugh. Marcus couldn't breathe. His vision tunneled. His hands trembled so violently he had to grip the doorframe to stay upright. This isn't real. This can't be real. But it was real. Every horrifying second of it. The woman he'd brought into his home. The woman he'd trusted with his daughter's life. The woman he was going to marry. She was torturing his child. Marcus's briefcase slipped from his numb fingers and crashed to the tile floor. The sound echoed through the silent hallway like a gunshot. Inside the room, Diana's head snapped toward the door. For one frozen moment, their eyes met through the crack. Marcus saw the truth in her face, the cold, calculating cruelty. The mask torn away. And then, in the span of a heartbeat, he watched her transform. The cruelty melted away. Her eyes filled with tears. Her face contorted into an expression of pure terror and desperation. She screamed, "Marcus! Oh God, Marcus, help me! She's having convulsions. The IV line backed up. I've been trying to hold her still." Diana held the IV bag higher, but now her hands were shaking, a perfect imitation of exhaustion and fear. Marcus burst through the door. "Get away from her!" He lunged forward, his shoulder driving into Diana's hip. She flew off the bed and crashed onto the sofa, the IV bag tumbling from her hands. Marcus dropped to his knees beside Zara. "Baby girl, I'm here. Daddy's here." He reached for her, wanting to hold her to protect her, to undo everything he'd just witnessed. Zara's reaction shattered him. She screamed, not with relief, with terror. She scrambled backward, pressing herself against the wall, her legs kicking wildly to push him away. "No, don't touch me. Don't." "Zara, it's me. It's Daddy. I saw what she did." "You saw nothing!" Zara screamed, her voice cracking. "You never see anything. You leave. You always leave." Marcus froze, his hands still extended. On the sofa, Diana was sobbing. Perfect, heart-wrenching sobs. Marcus, please. I don't know what you think you saw, but I was helping her. The IV line was blocked. I was just trying to—" "Shut up!" Marcus spun toward her. "I saw everything. You were standing on the bed. You were torturing her." The door burst open. 2 security guards. A night doctor in a white coat. Constance Williams behind them, her face unreadable. The doctor took one look at the scene, Diana sobbing on the sofa, Marcus wild-eyed and aggressive, Zara screaming against the wall, and his face hardened. "Mr. Cole, step away from the patient." "I'm her father. This woman has been, Miss Mercer has been this child's primary caregiver for 4 months. She's here every day. She brings coffee for our staff every morning." The doctor moved to help Diana to her feet. "You, Mr. Cole, visit when your schedule allows, perhaps once a week." "That doesn't mean—" "Sir." One of the security guards stepped forward. "We're going to need you to calm down." "I am calm. Check the cameras. Check the footage from this room. You'll see what she's been doing." The doctor exchanged a glance with Diana. Something passed between them. "Mr. Cole," the doctor said slowly, "there are no cameras in this room. Miss Mercer requested they be deactivated last week. She said the red recording light was disturbing the child's sleep." "She... what?" "You signed off on it. There was an email confirmation." Marcus's blood ran cold. The memory surfaced Berlin. The board meeting, Diana's text. "Please sign, honey. The camera light scares Zara." He'd signed it without reading, without thinking. He'd blinded himself. "No," Marcus whispered. "No, no, no." "Guards," Diana said softly, her voice trembling with perfectly calibrated vulnerability. "I think Marcus is having some kind of episode. The stress of Zara's illness. I've been worried about him. He hasn't been sleeping. He's been drinking more than usual." "That's a lie. Please." Diana looked up at the doctor with tear-filled eyes. "He needs help, and Zara needs rest. Can you please just get him out of here?" The guards moved forward. Marcus tried to resist, but they were trained for this one on each arm, forcing him backward toward the door. "Zara," he shouted. "Zara, tell them what she's been doing to you." Zara sat huddled against the wall, the blanket pulled up to her chin. Her wide eyes looked at Marcus, then at Diana, then at Marcus again. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. 4 months of silence. 4 months of training. 4 months of learning that no one would believe her, that Daddy would always leave and Diana would always stay. She closed her mouth and turned her face to the wall. Marcus felt his heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. "Zara, please." The guards dragged him into the hallway. The door to room 12 of 04 swung shut, cutting off his view. But through the small window just before the door closed completely, Marcus saw Diana stand up. She walked to the bedside, placed her hand on Zara's shoulder, looked directly at Marcus through the glass, and smiled. The smile of a predator who had just won. The guards released Marcus in the middle of the hallway. One of them, a thick-necked man with arms like tree trunks, pointed a finger at his chest. Stay here. Don't try to go back in that room. The doctor's calling administration. They'll decide what to do with you." Marcus didn't respond. He couldn't. His legs gave out and he slid down the wall until he was sitting on the cold tile floor, his back against the painted concrete. This isn't happening. But it was. Every nightmare second of it. Through the small window in the door of room 1204, he could see Diana moving around inside. She was smoothing her hair, adjusting her sweater. She leaned down and said something to Zara, something that made his daughter curl tighter into herself. Then Diana pulled out her phone and started texting. Business as usual. Like nothing had happened. Marcus buried his face in his hands. His mind raced, cycling through the same images over and over. Diana standing on the bed. The IV bag spinning. The tubing snapping taut. Zara's silent tears. 4 months. How long had this been going on? Since the beginning. Since Zara first got sick. Or did Diana make her sick? The thought hit Marcus like a physical blow. He doubled over, fighting the urge to vomit. "Mr. Cole." The voice was low, rough, familiar. Marcus looked up. Constance Williams stood over him, her arms crossed, her face as stern as ever. But something in her eyes had changed. The coldness was still there, but beneath it something else, something urgent. "What do you want?" Marcus's voice came out broken. "Come to tell me I'm crazy too." Constance glanced down the hallway. The 2 security guards had moved to the nurses' station, their attention on their phones. "Get up." "I'm not going anywhere. My daughter." "Get up, Mr. Cole." Constance's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "If you want to save that little girl, you'll follow me. Now." Marcus stared at her. Something in her tone cut through his despair. "What are you talking about?" Constance didn't answer. She turned and walked toward a door marked Medical Supply, Authorized Personnel Only. Marcus hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay, to find a way back into that room, to physically drag Diana away from his daughter. But another instinct, older, deeper, told him to follow this woman. He pushed himself to his feet and walked after her. The supply room was cramped and dim, packed with metal shelving units loaded with medical supplies. The smell of rubbing alcohol and old paper filled the air. Constance closed the door behind them and flipped a switch. A single fluorescent light flickered to life overhead. "No cameras in here," she said. "I checked." "What is this? What do you know?" Constance walked to a cabinet in the corner and pulled out a thick red binder. She turned and slammed it onto a metal table between them. "Everything." Marcus looked at the binder. It was worn, the cover creased and stained. Handwritten labels marked the edges of dozens of tabbed sections. "What is that?" 4 months of documentation. Constance opened the binder and began flipping through pages. "Every time you got on a plane, I wrote it down. Every time that child's heart rate spiked, I wrote it down. Every time that woman kicked me out of the room, I wrote it down." Marcus's hands trembled as he reached for the binder. October 12th. Constance read aloud. "Father departed for Tokyo 8 a.m. By 10 p.m. child's heart rate reached 140. Diana Mercer requested no staff enter room. Child found unresponsive the following morning. Mercer claimed she fell asleep and didn't notice." Marcus turned the page. November 25th. Father departed for Dubai. Child experienced continuous vomiting. Blood tests showed abnormally high potassium levels consistent with deliberate overdose of potassium supplements. Mercer blamed it on accidentally eating the wrong food from the cafeteria. "Oh my God. Keep reading." Marcus flipped through page after page. Every entry told the same story. Every time he left, Zara's condition worsened. Every time he returned, she stabilized miraculously. "Why didn't you report this?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Why didn't you call the police?" Constance laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You think I didn't try? I filed 5 reports with hospital administration. You know what they told me? What? They told me to mind my business. Constance's jaw tightened. You know why? Because Diana Mercer brings coffee and pastries for the nursing staff every single morning. Because she remembers everyone's birthdays. Because she donated $50,000 to the children's wing last month. Your money, but her name on the check. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. And because I'm just a grumpy old nurse who's 2 years from retirement. Nobody listens to me. Nobody believes me. I'm just the mean lady who gives rough injections. Marcus thought of all the times he'd complained about Constance. All the times Diana had smoothed things over, had smiled and nodded and said, "She's just doing her job, darling." "You were trying to protect her," he whispered. "Every time I saw you being rough with Zara, I was trying to get her attention." Constance pulled a small plastic box from her scrub pocket. "I was trying to make you see, Mr. Cole, but you only had eyes for that woman." She dumped the contents of the box onto the table. Empty glass vials rolled across the metal surface. "These are high-dose sedatives, heart rhythm suppressants. I found them hidden in Diana's tissue boxes. She's been giving them to Zara for months." Marcus picked up one of the vials. His hand shook so badly he nearly dropped it. "I need to take these to the police." With what evidence? Empty vials found in a trash can. A handwritten log from a nurse everyone thinks is crazy. Constance shook her head. "You need more than this, Mr. Cole. You need proof that will hold up in court." "Then what am I supposed to do?" Constance was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was heavy with something Marcus hadn't heard before. Guilt. "I did something I shouldn't have." "What?" 3 times over the past 4 months I snuck into that room when Diana was in the bathroom or on the phone. I swapped the medication in Zara's IV bag with harmless saline solution. Marcus stared at her. You saved her life." "I risked my nursing license. I risked my pension. Everything I've worked for over 37 years. Constance's voice wavered for just a moment. "But that little girl looked at me, Mr. Cole. Every time they escorted me out of that room, she looked at me like I was the only person in the world who could help her." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. This woman, this stranger he'd dismissed and criticized, had been his daughter's guardian angel while he'd been flying around the world counting his money. "Why are you helping me now?" Constance looked at him hard. "Because tonight was different. Tonight she almost killed that child. I saw it on the monitor, Diana standing on the bed swinging that IV bag. I was about to call security when you showed up." "You saw it?" "The nurse's station has a feed from the hallway camera. I saw you go in. I saw what happened after." She paused. "I also saw Diana's face when she realized she'd been caught. And then I saw her flip the switch turn on the tears play the victim. She's good, Mr. Cole. She's very, very good." The intercom on the wall crackled to life. "Security teams be advised. Locate and detain Marcus Cole for psychiatric evaluation per attending physician's orders. Patient is agitated and may pose a threat to staff and visitors." Constance's head snapped toward the speaker. "She's making her move. What do I do?" "You run." Constance grabbed the binder and shoved it into Marcus's arms. "Take this. Get a lawyer. File for an emergency restraining order. You have 24 hours before she finds a way to have you committed or arrested." "I can't leave Zara." "You can't help her from a jail cell either." Constance pushed him toward a door in the back of the supply room. "Fire exit. Takes you down to the loading dock. My car's parked in the staff lot, gray Honda license plate ending in 7749. Keys are under the mat." "Why are you doing this?" Constance paused. For the first time, her stern face softened. "Because 30 years ago I had a daughter too, and I didn't protect her. I won't make that mistake again, not with someone else's child." Marcus wanted to ask more, but footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Heavy boots, multiple pairs. "Go!" Marcus clutched the binder to his chest and ran. The fire exit led to a narrow stairwell dimly lit with emergency lights. Marcus took the stairs two at a time, his leather shoes slipping on the concrete. His breath came in ragged gasps. The binder felt like it weighed 100 pounds. He burst through the ground floor door into a loading dock empty except for a few delivery carts and a dumpster. The snow was falling harder now, thick white flakes swirling in the security lights. Marcus spotted Constance's Honda and sprinted toward it. The keys were exactly where she'd said under the driver's side mat. The engine turned over on the first try. He pulled out of the parking lot just as security guards emerged from the hospital's side entrance flashlight beams, cutting through the snowstorm. Marcus drove. He didn't know where. He just drove. The streets of Chicago were nearly empty, the blizzard keeping sensible people indoors. Marcus gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. The binder sat on the passenger seat like a bomb waiting to explode. His phone buzzed. A text from Diana. "Darling, where are you? Security said you left. The doctor wants to talk about getting you some help. Please come back. We're worried about you. Love you." Marcus threw the phone against the dashboard. It cracked and went dark. He thought about calling his lawyer, but it was 3 a.m. He thought about calling the police, but Constance was right. Empty vials and handwritten notes wouldn't be enough. Diana had already planted the seeds of doubt. The crazy, overworked billionaire having a breakdown. The devoted fiancé just trying to help. Then he remembered. The drawing. Marcus pulled over and reached into his coat pocket. The crumpled paper was still there, wedged next to his wallet. He unfolded it carefully, his hand still shaking. The image was stark in the dim light of the car's interior. A tall woman with claw-like fingers. A tiny girl with no face, no eyes to see, no nose to breathe, no mouth to cry for help. Zara had been trying to tell him, for months probably, and he'd dismissed it as nightmares. Marcus pressed the drawing to his chest and wept. He cried for his daughter trapped in that room with a monster. He cried for his own blindness, his arrogance, his certainty that money could solve everything. And he cried for the time he'd lost, time he could never get back. When the tears finally stopped, something else took their place. Rage. Cold, focused, purposeful rage. Diana Mercer had made a mistake. She'd underestimated him. She thought he would crumble, check himself into some expensive clinic, let her continue her work in peace. She was wrong. Marcus started the car and pulled back onto the road. He knew where he needed to go. Richard Martinez had been his family's attorney for 3 decades. He'd handled Marcus's divorce, his mother's estate, every major business deal for the past 20 years. He was 71 years old, semi-retired, and lived in a brownstone in Lincoln Park. He also answered his door at 4 a.m. when Marcus pounded on it. "Marcus!" Richard stood in the doorway in a bathrobe, his gray hair disheveled. "What in God's name? I need your help. It's 4 in the morning. I know. And my daughter is being tortured by my fiancé. Are you going to let me in or not?" Richard stared at him for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. They sat in Richard's study, the binder spread open on the desk between them. Marcus talked for an hour straight, his voice hoarse by the end. He told Richard everything: the hospital visit, what he'd witnessed. Constance's notes, the empty vials, the drawing. Richard listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished, the old lawyer removed his reading glasses and rubbed his eyes. "This is a lot." "I know. The evidence is circumstantial at best. A nurse's personal log, empty vials that could have come from anywhere, a child's drawing that any psychologist could dismiss as imagination." "Richard, I'm not saying I don't believe you." Richard held up a hand. "I'm saying a court might not believe you. Diana has spent 4 months building her case, ingratiating herself with the hospital staff, documenting your absences, establishing herself as the primary caregiver. If this goes to trial, it'll be her word against yours. And right now, her word carries more weight." Marcus slammed his fist on the desk. "So what am I supposed to do? Let her kill my daughter?" "No." Richard leaned forward. "You're supposed to let me do my job. First thing tomorrow morning, I'm filing for an emergency temporary restraining order. I'll argue that Zara is in immediate danger and that Diana must be removed from her care pending investigation. Will it work? It might, for 24 hours, maybe 48. Richard paused. But Marcus, you need to understand something. If we file this order and fail to prove our case, the backlash will be severe. Diana's lawyers will argue that you're unfit, mentally unstable, paranoid, a danger to your own child. They could petition to have your custody revoked entirely. She's already planning that. Then we need to move fast. Richard stood. Go home. Try to get some sleep. I'll call you when the papers are ready. Marcus didn't sleep. He couldn't. He went back to his penthouse on Lakeshore Drive, the one he'd shared with Diana until she moved into the hospital to be with Zara full-time. Her clothes were still in the closet. Her perfume still lingered in the bathroom. Marcus walked through the rooms like a ghost. Every surface held a memory. Diana cooking breakfast. Diana laughing at one of his jokes. Diana holding Zara's hand as they walked through the park. All of it fake. Every smile, every touch, every whispered, "I love you." He stopped in front of a photo on the mantel. The three of them at Disney World last year before Zara got sick. Zara was grinning ear to ear, Mickey Mouse ears perched on her braids. Diana stood behind her, arms wrapped around the little girl's shoulders, her chin resting on top of Zara's head. The perfect family portrait. Marcus picked up the frame and hurled it against the wall. Glass shattered. The photo fluttered to the floor. He looked down at it, at Diana's smiling face, and felt nothing but cold, killing hatred. His phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. Hello. Marcus Cole. The voice was female, professional. This is Samantha Nguyen from Chicago Tribune. I'm calling for comment on the allegations against you. Marcus's blood ran cold. What allegations? Your fiancée Diana Mercer held a press conference an hour ago. She's claiming you assaulted her at St. Jude Hospital and that you've been suffering from substance abuse and paranoid delusions. She's filed for emergency custody of your daughter. Would you like to comment? Marcus hung up. He turned on the television. Diana's face filled the screen. She sat in a hotel conference room surrounded by reporters. No makeup, baggy clothes, eyes swollen from crying. She looked like a woman who had just survived a terrible ordeal. I don't want his money. Diana sobbed into the microphones. I just want to be with my daughter. She needs me. He's a good man, but something is wrong with him. The stress of work, Zara's illness. He's not himself. He needs help. A reporter shouted a question. Ms. Mercer, did Marcus Cole physically assault you? Diana's chin trembled. He threw me across the room. I hit my head. I thought he was going to kill me. Marcus watched the broadcast in stunned silence. She was good. Constance was right. Diana was very, very good. Within an hour, social media exploded. The hashtags started trending: #justice for Diana, #protect Zara, #billionaire abuser. Marcus's phone rang again. His assistant. Sir, the board is calling an emergency meeting. They want you to step down temporarily until this is resolved. Tell them I'll call them back. He hung up and called Richard Martinez. I'm watching the news, Richard said before Marcus could speak. This changes things. How bad? Bad. She's moved faster than I expected. She's already filed custody papers. The hearing is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Tomorrow. How is that possible? She's got connections. Marcus, money can't buy happiness, but it can definitely buy a fast-track court date. Richard sighed. I'm filing the restraining order right now, but with public opinion turning against you, I won't lie, it doesn't look good. Marcus closed his eyes. Everything was falling apart. His reputation, his company, his relationship with his daughter. And somewhere in that hospital, Zara was still trapped with the woman who wanted her dead. There has to be something else, Marcus said. Some piece of evidence Diana doesn't know about. Something that proves what she's been doing. If there is, You'd better find it fast. You've got less than 18 hours before that hearing." Marcus hung up and sat in the darkness of his empty penthouse. Think. Think. Diana was meticulous. She'd planned everything, the cameras, the medication, the slowly building narrative of Marcus's instability. She'd been playing this game for months, maybe years. But everyone makes mistakes. Marcus thought about the room. Room 1204. He'd been in there dozens of times over the past 4 months. What had he seen? What had he missed? The flowers. Diana always kept fresh flowers in the room. White lilies, the candles, lavender-scented. Diana said they helped Zara sleep. The sofa, where Diana sat reading magazines or peeling apples or texting on her phone. The teddy bear. Marcus's eyes snapped open. The teddy bear. A brown stuffed bear about a foot tall sitting on top of the wooden cabinet near the corner of the room. Diana had given it to Zara when she first got sick. "A companion for when Daddy's away," she'd said. But Zara had never liked that bear. She'd told Marcus once that it looked at her funny. He'd laughed it off. Kids say weird things about their toys. But what if it wasn't just a toy? What if Diana paranoid controlling Diana had put a camera inside it? Marcus grabbed his coat and ran for the door. He drove back to St. Jude Hospital, his mind racing. If he was right, if there was a camera in that bear, it would have recorded everything. Not just what Diana did to Zara, but what Diana said when she thought no one was listening. The evidence that could destroy her. The hospital parking lot was crawling with news vans. Reporters spotted Marcus's car the moment he turned in. He parked around back and slipped through the loading dock entrance, the same one Constance had shown him hours earlier. The fire stairwell was empty. He climbed to the 12th floor and pushed through the door into the VIP hallway. A security guard spotted him immediately. "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." Marcus didn't stop. He sprinted toward room 1204. The door was locked. He pounded on it with both fists. "Zara, Zara." The door opened. Diana stood there, her face a mask of concern. "Marcus, darling, what are you—" He shoved past her and went straight for the cabinet. The teddy bear sat on top, its black button eyes gleaming in the fluorescent light. Marcus grabbed it. The bear was heavier than it should have been. The weight was wrong, concentrated in the head. "What are you doing?" Diana's voice rose. "That's Zara's toy. You're scaring her." Marcus looked at Zara. She was sitting up in bed, her eyes wide. But this time she wasn't looking at him with fear. She was looking at the bear. "It watches me," she whispered. "The red light blinks at night." Marcus understood. He pulled out his keys and sliced through the stitching at the back of the bear's neck. Cotton stuffing spilled out. His fingers closed around something hard, cold, metallic. A small black box. A high-definition spy camera with a motion sensor and a 128-gigabyte memory card. Marcus pulled it out and held it up. Diana's face went white. That's not mine. I don't know how that got there." "Really?" Marcus ejected the memory card. "Then you won't mind if I show the police what's on it." For the first time, Diana's mask cracked. Her eyes darted toward the door, calculating escape routes, her hands clenched into fists. "You can't prove anything," she hissed. "Even if there's footage, I'll say you planted it. Your word against mine, remember?" Marcus stepped closer until he was inches from her face. "My word against yours, and 47 news cameras outside, and a memory card full of evidence." He smiled a cold, dangerous smile. "Let's see whose story holds up." He turned to Zara and knelt beside her bed. "Baby girl, Daddy's going to fix this. I promise. I'm never leaving you again." Zara looked at him. For a long moment she didn't move. Then slowly, her small hand reached out and touched his cheek. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to stop them. Behind him, Diana was screaming for security, for her lawyer, for anyone who would listen. But it didn't matter anymore. Marcus had the truth in his hands. And this time, he wasn't going to let it go. Security guards flooded into room 1204 within seconds. Two of them grabbed Marcus by the arms, trying to pull him away from Zara's bedside. But Marcus held the memory card high above his head, his fingers wrapped around it like a lifeline. "Call the police," he shouted. "Call them right now. This woman has been poisoning my daughter for 4 months." Diana stood by the window. Her arms crossed her face, already rearranging itself into an expression of wounded innocence. But Marcus could see the calculation behind her eyes. She was thinking, planning, looking for her next move. "Officer, please," Diana said to the security guard, her voice trembling. "He broke into this room. He destroyed my daughter's toy. He's completely unhinged." "Your daughter." Marcus laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "She's my daughter. You're nothing to her. Nothing but a parasite." "Sir, you need to come with us." The larger guard tightened his grip on Marcus's arm. "We can sort this out downstairs." "I'm not going anywhere until the police see what's on this card." The door opened again. Richard Martinez stepped through, slightly out of breath, his gray hair windswept. Behind him came 2 uniformed Chicago police officers. "Richard?" Marcus felt a surge of relief. "Thank God." "I got your message." Richard walked straight to the officers. "Gentlemen, my client has evidence of child abuse. I need you to secure that memory card and place Ms. Mercer under protective custody pending investigation." Diana's mask slipped for just a second. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "This is absurd," she said. "I'm the victim here. Marcus attacked me last night. I have witnesses." "Ma'am?" One of the officers stepped forward. "We're going to need you to come with us, just to answer some questions." "Am I being arrested?" "Not at this time, but we need to secure the evidence and take statements from everyone involved." Diana looked at Marcus. Something passed between them, a silent acknowledgement that the game had changed. "Fine," she said smoothly. "I have nothing to hide, unlike some people." She walked toward the door, pausing beside Zara's bed. "I'll be back soon, sweetheart. Don't worry." Zara flinched away from her. Diana's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but she kept walking. The officers escorted her out. Marcus finally allowed himself to breathe. "Daddy?" He turned. Zara was sitting up in bed, her thin arms wrapped around her knees. She looked so small, so fragile. "I'm here, baby girl." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm not going anywhere." "Is she coming back?" "No. Never again. I promise." Zara's lower lip trembled. "You said that before. When Mommy left. You said you'd always be there. But you weren't. You were always on planes. Always at meetings." Marcus felt the words like physical blows. Each one landed exactly where it hurt most. "I know," he whispered. "I know I wasn't there. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Zara." "Sorry doesn't fix it." "No, it doesn't." Marcus reached for her hand, then stopped. He remembered how she'd recoiled from him last night. "But I'm going to try. Every single day. I'm going to try to be the father you deserve." Zara didn't respond. She turned her face toward the window, her braids falling across her cheek. Marcus sat there waiting. He would wait as long as it took. Richard touched his shoulder. "Marcus, we need to go. The police want to review that footage immediately." "I'm not leaving her." "You have to. If this evidence proves what you say it does, you need to be there when they see it. This is your one chance to end this." Marcus looked at Zara. She was still staring out the window. "Constance," he said suddenly. "Is Nurse Constance Williams still here?" Richard nodded. "She's been reinstated, at least temporarily. I made some calls." "Get her in here. She stays with Zara while I'm gone. Nobody else. You understand, nobody." 2 hours later, Marcus sat in a conference room at the Chicago Police Department's headquarters. Richard was beside him. Across the table sat Detective Angela Reyes, mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense attitude, and her partner, Detective Mike Hannigan. A laptop sat open between them, the memory card inserted into a reader. "You understand that if this footage doesn't show what you claim, you could be facing charges yourself," Detective Reyes said. "Breaking and entering, evidence tampering, harassment." "I understand. And you're willing to proceed. Play the footage." Detective Reyes clicked the mouse. The screen filled with a fisheye view of room 1204. The angle was from above the cabinet where the teddy bear had been positioned. The timestamp showed October 3rd, nearly 3 months ago. In the video, Diana sat on the edge of Zara's bed. Zara was sleeping, or appeared to be sleeping. Diana checked her phone, then stood and walked to the door. She listened for a moment, then locked it from the inside. "Watch," Marcus said quietly. Diana returned to the bed. She pulled a small pill bottle from her purse, the same kind of bottle Constance had shown Marcus in the supply room. "Time for your vitamins, sweetheart," Diana said on the video, her voice syrupy sweet. She shook Zara's shoulder. "Wake up! Open your mouth!" "I don't want to," Zara mumbled. "They make me feel sick." "That's the point, darling." Diana's voice dropped. The sweetness vanished. "Open your mouth or I'll make you. Please." Diana grabbed Zara's jaw and forced it open. She dropped 2 pills onto the child's tongue, then clamped her hand over Zara's mouth and nose. "Swallow, now!" Zara struggled. Her small hands pushed against Diana's arm. Her feet kicked at the blankets. Diana didn't let go. Her face was calm, patient, like she'd done this 100 times before. Finally, Zara swallowed. Diana released her. "Good girl." Diana patted Zara's cheek. "See? That wasn't so hard. Now go back to sleep. Your daddy's in Singapore counting his money. He won't be back for 5 days. Plenty of time for these to work." She stood up, straightened her sweater, and unlocked the door. "Oh, and Zara." Diana paused in the doorway. "If you tell anyone about this, I'll make sure you never see your daddy again. Do you understand?" Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I can't hear you." "Yes, Mother Diana?" "Good girl." Diana walked out. The door closed behind her. Detective Reyes stopped the video. The room was silent. "There's more," Marcus said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "Days and days of this. Keep watching." They watched for 3 hours. They saw Diana force pills down Zara's throat. They saw her hold IV bags above the child's head, letting air bubbles form in the line. They saw her pinch Zara's arms until they bruised, then photograph the bruises and tell nurses that Zara was hurting herself. They saw Diana on the phone, laughing with friends. "The little brat is almost an invalid now," she said in one video. "Another month or 2, and her nervous system will be shot. Then I'll have full control of the trust fund. $3 million just for babysitting a sick kid." They saw Diana standing over Zara at 3 a.m., whispering things that made the child curl into a ball and weep silently. "Your daddy doesn't love you. He only adopted you for the publicity. Billionaire saves orphan from South Side. Do you know how many magazine covers that got him? You're a prop, Zara, a charity case. And when you die, he'll just adopt another one." By the time the footage ended, Detective Reyes's face was gray. Detective Hannigan had left the room twice. Marcus heard him retching in the hallway. Richard Martinez sat motionless, his legal pad untouched. "Well," Detective Reyes said finally. Her voice was hoarse. "I think we have enough to proceed." Diana was arrested at 6:47 p.m. Marcus wasn't there for it. Richard advised him to stay away to let the police handle it, but Constance called him with updates. "They took her in handcuffs," the old nurse reported. "She was screaming about her rights, about how she'd sue the department, about how you planted that camera." Did anyone believe her? Not after they saw the footage. The detectives showed it to the hospital administrator. Dr. Patterson, the one who signed off on all her fake medical reports, he resigned on the spot. Started crying and saying he didn't know. He knew, Marcus said coldly. He just didn't care. There was a pause on the line. How's Zara? Sleeping. First peaceful sleep she's had in months, I think. Constance's voice softened. She asked about you. She did. Asked when you were coming back. I told her soon. Marcus closed his eyes. I'm on my way. He arrived at the hospital just as the sun was setting. The news vans were still outside, but now their narrative had shifted. The crawl at the bottom of every screen read, Breaking fiancé of Chicago billionaire arrested for child abuse. Shocking video evidence released. Marcus walked through the lobby with his head held high. People stared. Some pointed. A few even clapped. He ignored them all. Room 1204 was quiet. Constance sat in the chair by the window, reading a paperback novel. Zara lay in bed, her eyes closed, her breathing even. She woke up about an hour ago, Constance whispered. Asked for water. I gave her some apple juice instead, doctor's orders. Thank you. Marcus looked at the old nurse. For everything. I don't know how I can ever repay you. Don't need repayment. Constance stood and gathered her things. Just take care of that little girl. That's all the payment I need. She paused at the door. Mr. Cole? Yes. The first time I saw you, I thought you were just another rich man who bought a child to make himself feel good. A photo-op dad. She looked at him steadily. I was wrong about the second part. Don't make me wrong about the first. She left. Marcus sat down in the chair she'd vacated. It was still warm. He looked at Zara. Really looked at her. The IV was gone. The heart monitor was silent. She looked like a normal 8-year-old girl sleeping peacefully. But he knew the scars were there. Invisible. Deep. Daddy? Marcus leaned forward. Zara's eyes were open, watching him. Hey, baby girl, how do you feel? Tired. She paused. Is she really gone? She's really gone. The police took her away. Zara was quiet for a long moment. She told me you wouldn't believe me, she finally said. She told me nobody would ever believe me. That I was just a foster kid and nobody cares what happens to foster kids. Marcus felt his heart crack open. She was wrong. Was she? Zara's voice was flat. Empty. You didn't believe me. I gave you that drawing. I tried to tell you. And you left anyway. I know. Marcus's voice broke. I know I did. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Regret doesn't fix anything. That's what you always say. I say a lot of stupid things. Marcus reached for her hand, then stopped. Zara, I don't expect you to forgive me. Not today. Maybe not ever. But I want you to know something. He waited until she looked at him. I love you. Not because of how it looks in magazines. Not because of some charity photo op. I love you because you're my daughter. Because 3 years ago I walked into that foster care center and saw a little girl drawing pictures in a corner while everyone else played. And something in my heart said, that's her. That's your daughter. Zara's eyes glistened. You never told me that before? I should have. I should have told you every single day. Marcus wiped his eyes. I was so busy building an empire that I forgot to build a family. And Diana saw that. She used it. She made you think I didn't care because I made it easy for her to do that. So it's your fault. The question hung in the air. Yes, Marcus said. Part of it is my fault. Not what she did, that's all on her. But I gave her the opportunity. I left you alone with her. I chose work over you again and again. And you paid the price for my choices. Zara didn't respond. She turned her head and looked out the window. Marcus sat there in silence. The room grew dark as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Neither of them moved to turn on the lights. Finally, Zara spoke. I don't trust you. I know. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I know that too. But... She turned back to him. In the dim light, her eyes were huge, vulnerable. I don't want to be alone anymore. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. You won't be, I promise. You won't ever be alone again. He reached out his hand slowly, carefully, and placed it on the blanket next to hers. He didn't try to hold her hand. He just let her know he was there. Zara looked at his hand, then at his face, and then so gently that Marcus almost didn't feel it, her pinky finger hooked around his. It was barely anything, the slightest connection. But to Marcus, it felt like everything. The arraignment took place 3 days later. Marcus sat in the front row of the courtroom, flanked by Richard Martinez and 2 security guards. The gallery behind him was packed with reporters, their cameras clicking and whirring every time the door opened. Diana was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. No makeup. Hair disheveled. She looked like a different person from the elegant woman who'd charmed hospital staff and smiled for magazine covers. But her eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, defiant. She scanned the courtroom until she found Marcus. Their eyes met. Diana smiled. It was a small smile. Private. A smile that said, "This isn't over." Marcus didn't look away. He let her see exactly what he was feeling. The hatred, the disgust, the absolute determination to see her rot in prison for the rest of her life. Diana's smile faltered. Good. The judge read the charges. Aggravated child abuse. Attempted murder. Fraud. Theft. The list went on for 10 minutes. Diana pleaded not guilty to all charges. Richard leaned over to Marcus. Expected. Her lawyers will try for a plea deal. No deals. Marcus whispered back. I want a trial. I want everyone to see what she is. That could take months, maybe years. I don't care, however long it takes. The judge set bail at $5 million. Diana's lawyers produced a cashier's check within the hour. Marcus watched her walk out of the courthouse free on bail, smiling for the cameras like she'd just won a beauty pageant. His hands curled into fists. Easy, Richard murmured. This is a marathon, not a sprint. We have the evidence. We have the testimony. She's going down, Marcus. It's just going to take time. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Diana still had moves left to play. He was right. That night his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Marcus. Diana's voice was silk over steel. We need to talk. Marcus almost hung up, but something stopped him. Talk about what? About how this is all going to end. Diana paused. I have a proposition for you. I'm not interested. You should be. Because if you don't listen, I'm going to destroy you. Not just your reputation, your entire life. Your company. Your friends. Everything you've built over the past 30 years. You're facing life in prison, Diana. You have nothing. Do I? She laughed softly. Marcus, darling, do you really think I spent 2 years with you without learning anything I know, every secret you have, every shady deal, every corner you cut to build that precious empire of yours? Marcus's blood ran cold. You're bluffing. Am I? How about that land deal in Springfield, the one where you paid off the zoning commissioner, or the contract with the city of Chicago, the one you won by bribing the mayor's chief of staff? Diana's voice hardened. I have documentation, Marcus. Dates, names, bank account numbers, all stored in a very safe place. Those deals were years ago, before I met you. Doesn't matter. Statute of limitations hasn't run out yet. And even if it had, the court of public opinion doesn't care about technicalities. Diana let that sink in. So here's my proposition. You drop the charges. You tell the police you made a mistake, that you planted that camera, that the footage was doctored. And in exchange, I walk away. Quietly. Forever. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. And if I refuse, then I release everything. to the press, to the FBI, to anyone who will listen. Diana's voice dropped to a whisper. You'll go to prison, Marcus, and Zara will go back to foster care. Is that what you want? Marcus closed his eyes. The silence stretched between them. Finally, he spoke. Diana. Yes. Go to hell. He hung up. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. But he felt something else too, a strange, fierce clarity. He picked up the phone and called Richard Martinez. She just tried to blackmail me. Richard listened without interrupting as Marcus explained. When he finished, the lawyer let out a long breath. She's desperate. This is a Hail Mary play. What do I do? Nothing. Let me handle it. Richard paused. Marcus, listen to me. Even if what she says is true, even if there are skeletons in your closet, it doesn't change what she did to Zara. The evidence is overwhelming. No jury in the world is going to let her walk. But the company can survive scandal. It survived before. Richard's voice softened. The question is, what matters more to you, protecting your business or protecting your daughter? Marcus didn't hesitate. My daughter, always. Then stay the course. Don't let Diana play mind games with you. She's cornered and she knows it. This is her last card. Marcus nodded, even though Richard couldn't see him. Okay, I trust you. Good. Now get some sleep. The preliminary hearing is tomorrow, and I need you sharp. Marcus hung up and walked to the window of his penthouse. The Chicago skyline glittered in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Diana was plotting her next move. Let her plot. Marcus had spent his whole life building things, companies' portfolios, empires of steel and glass. Now he was going to build something different. A family. A real one this time. And nothing, not Diana, not blackmail, not the threat of losing everything, was going to stop him. He turned away from the window and picked up his keys. He had somewhere to be. At St. Jude Hospital, the night shift had just started. The halls were quiet. Marcus walked past the nurse's station, nodding to Constance, who was filling out paperwork. He pushed open the door to room 1204. Zara was awake. She sat up in bed, a coloring book open on her lap. Her braids were freshly done. Constance's work probably with little gold beads at the ends. Daddy! She looked surprised. What are you doing here? It's late. I know. Marcus sat down in the chair beside her bed. I just wanted to see you. Why? Because I missed you. Zara studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she moved over and patted the space beside her on the bed. Marcus hesitated. You can sit here, she said quietly, if you want. Marcus stood and carefully sat on the edge of the bed, keeping space between them. He didn't want to push, didn't want to scare her. What are you coloring? A butterfly. Zara held up the book. The butterfly was purple and blue with streaks of gold across its wings. Constance says butterflies are symbols of change. She's right. Marcus looked at the picture. It's beautiful baby girl. Zara was quiet for a moment. Daddy. Yes. Are the bad things really over? Marcus thought about Diana, about the blackmail, about the trial that was coming. No, he said honestly. Not yet. There's going to be some hard times ahead, some scary times, but I want you to know something. What? Whatever happens, I'm going to be right here, beside you, every single day. No more planes, no more meetings, just you and me. Zara looked at him with those big brown eyes that had seen too much pain, too much betrayal. Promise. Marcus took a deep breath. I promise. Zara didn't smile, didn't throw her arms around him, didn't cry. She just nodded once and went back to coloring her butterfly. But Marcus noticed something. She was sitting a little closer to him than before. And for now, that was enough. The weeks that followed were the longest of Marcus's life. He moved out of the penthouse and into a two-bedroom apartment near the hospital. The penthouse held too many memories. Diana's perfume, her clothes in the closet, her laughter echoing off the marble floors. He couldn't breathe in that place anymore. The new apartment was small, plain, nothing like the luxury he'd grown accustomed to over the past 2 decades. But it had a spare bedroom that he painted light purple, Zara's favorite color, and filled with books and art supplies. Zara was discharged from St. Jude 3 weeks after Diana's arrest. Dr. Patterson's replacement, a no-nonsense woman named Dr. Angela Foster, ran a complete battery of tests and discovered what Constance had suspected all along. The potassium levels in her system were nearly 3 times the normal amount, Dr. Foster told Marcus in her office. Sustained over months. It's a miracle her heart didn't give out. Will she recover? Physically, yes. The damage isn't permanent yet. Another few weeks of that regimen, and we'd be having a very different conversation. Dr. Foster paused. Emotionally. That's harder to say. She's going to need therapy. Lots of it. Marcus nodded. Whatever she needs. She also needs stability, routine, predictability. Dr. Foster looked at him over her glasses. Can you provide that, Mr. Cole? It was a fair question. Marcus had never been stable, never been predictable. His entire life was built on chaos deals closing at midnight, flights across the world, phone calls at all hours. I can learn, he said. Dr. Foster studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Good. Because that little girl has been through hell. She needs to know that the ground beneath her feet isn't going to shift again. Marcus brought Zara home on a Tuesday afternoon. Constance came with them. Marcus had offered her a job as Zara's live-in caregiver, and after 3 days of stubborn refusal, the old nurse had finally agreed. Don't think this makes us friends, Constance had warned him. I'm doing this for Zara, not for you. Understood. The first night in the new apartment was awkward. Zara stood in the middle of her purple room, looking at the unfamiliar furniture, the new books on the shelves, the art supplies arranged on the desk. This is mine, she asked. All yours. She walked to the window and looked out at the street below. No lake view, no skyline. Just a quiet residential neighborhood with trees and sidewalks and kids riding bicycles. It's small, she said. Yeah. Marcus stood in the doorway, uncertain. Is that okay? Zara was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned around. I like it, she said softly. It feels safe. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. Good. That's good, baby girl. The trial was scheduled to begin in 8 weeks. Diana's lawyers had tried every trick in the book to delay motions to suppress evidence challenges to the chain of custody claims of prosecutorial misconduct. Richard Martinez had fought them all off, but the battle was exhausting. Diana remained free on bail, confined to a luxury hotel downtown. Marcus saw her face on the news every day, always smiling, always composed, always playing the victim. I'm confident the truth will come out, she told reporters outside the courthouse one morning. Marcus Cole is a disturbed man. He's trying to take my daughter away from me because I refused to sign a prenuptial agreement. This is revenge, pure and simple. Marcus turned off the television. She's good, Constance said from the kitchen where she was making breakfast. I'll give her that. She's a monster. Monsters can be good actors. That's what makes them dangerous. 2 weeks before the trial, Diana's blackmail threat materialized. Marcus was in a meeting with his board of directors, the first he'd attended since Zara's hospitalization, when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your email. Last chance to do the right thing. He excused himself and opened his laptop. In his inbox was a message from an anonymous sender with a single attachment. A PDF file containing bank records, contracts, and sworn statements documenting every questionable deal he'd made over the past 15 years. The Springfield land deal, the Chicago City contract. A construction project in Miami, where safety inspections had been overlooked. It was all there laid out in damning detail. Marcus stared at the screen. His hands were cold. His phone rang. Diana. Did you get my present? What do you want? I told you what I want. Drop the charges. Walk away. Let me disappear. Diana's voice was sweet, almost pleasant. It's not too late, Marcus. We can both win here. And if I don't, then tomorrow morning, every major news outlet in the country will receive a copy of that file, along with a very compelling narrative about how Chicago's favorite billionaire built his empire on corruption and bribery. Marcus closed his eyes. You'd really destroy everything just to save yourself. Darling, Diana laughed. I'd burn the whole world down to save myself. You should know that by now. Marcus thought about Zara, about the purple room, about the way she'd hooked her pinky around his that night in the hospital. Do it, he said. Excuse me. Release the files, call the press, tell them everything. Marcus's voice was steady. I don't care anymore, Diana. I don't care about the company or the money or my reputation. The only thing I care about is making sure you never hurt another child again. Silence on the other end of the line. You're bluffing. Try me. More silence. Then Diana's voice, sharp now, the sweetness gone. You're making a mistake, Marcus. A very big mistake. No, I made my mistakes a long time ago. This is me fixing them. He hung up. The next morning, the files went public. The fallout was immediate and brutal. News crews camped outside Marcus's apartment building. The board of directors called an emergency meeting and voted to remove him as CEO. His face was plastered across every newspaper in America, not as the grieving father fighting for his daughter, but as another corrupt billionaire finally getting his due. Marcus watched it all unfold from his living room, Zara curled up on the couch beside him, doing homework. Daddy. She looked up from her math workbook. Why are all those people outside? They want to take pictures of me. Why? Because I did some bad things a long time ago. Things I'm not proud of. Zara considered this. Are you going to jail? I don't know, baby girl. Maybe. Who will take care of me? Marcus turned to look at her. In her eyes he saw the fear she'd learned to hide so well, the fear of being abandoned, of being left alone again. Constance will take care of you, and Richard, Mr. Martinez. And no matter what happens, I promise you'll never go back to foster care. I've made sure of that. Zara was quiet. I don't want you to go to jail, she said finally. I don't want to go either. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. She didn't pull away. But sometimes grown-ups have to face consequences for their mistakes, even when it's hard. Is that why the lady is going to jail, because of consequences? Yes, that's exactly why. Zara nodded slowly. Good, she said, and went back to her homework. The trial began on a gray November morning. Marcus sat in the front row of the packed courtroom wearing a simple blue suit instead of his usual custom Italian. He'd lost weight over the past 2 months. His hair had gone grayer at the temples. He looked like a man who'd been through a war. Diana entered in a cream-colored dress, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She looked like she was attending a charity gala, not facing charges that could put her away for life. She scanned the gallery until she found Marcus. Their eyes met. This time, she didn't smile. The prosecution's opening statement laid out the case in brutal detail. The poisoning, the psychological abuse, the calculated plan to drain Zara's trust fund. The footage from the teddy bear camera was played for the jury, all 12 members visibly shaken by what they saw. Diana's lawyers tried their best. They argued that Marcus had planted the camera, that the footage was doctored, that Diana was being framed by a man desperate to protect his own secrets. Look at who's accusing my client, Diana's lead attorney thundered, A man who bribed public officials. A man who cut corners that put workers' lives at risk. A man who built his fortune on lies. And we're supposed to believe him. But the evidence was overwhelming. Constance took the stand and testified for 3 hours, walking the jury through every entry in her handwritten log. Dr. Foster presented the medical records showing the systematic poisoning of a child. Tech experts confirmed that the camera footage was authentic and unedited. And then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Diana took the stand. She sat in the witness chair with perfect posture, her hands folded in her lap, her expression calm and composed. Her attorney guided her through a series of softball questions, her background, her relationship with Marcus, her love for Zara. "I only ever wanted to be a mother to that little girl," Diana said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "I sacrificed my career, my independence, everything to care for her while Marcus was off making money." "And how would you characterize Marcus Cole's relationship with his daughter?" "Absent." Diana shook her head sadly. "He was never there. Always traveling, always working. Zara used to cry every time he left." "And what did he do?" "Bought her more toys. More dolls. As if that could replace a father's love." The prosecutor, a heavy-set woman named Sarah Chen, stood for cross-examination. "Ms. Mercer, let's talk about the video footage recovered from the teddy bear camera. That camera was planted by Marcus. I never knew it was there. So you're saying Marcus planted a camera in a toy you gave to Zara?" Diana hesitated. "He must have tampered with it somehow." "The camera was purchased 6 months before Zara's illness was diagnosed. Sales records show it was bought with your credit card from a surveillance equipment store in Schaumburg. Can you explain that?" Diana's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I don't recall making that purchase." "You don't recall spending $400 on a hidden camera." "I buy a lot of things. I can't remember every purchase." Prosecutor Chen nodded slowly. She picked up a remote and clicked it. The courtroom screen lit up with footage from the teddy bear camera. "Let me refresh your memory then." The video played, Diana standing on the bed, the IV bag spinning, Zara's silent tears. "Stay sick, won't you, darling?" Diana's recorded voice filled the courtroom. "You're my meal ticket." Several jurors looked away. One woman covered her mouth. Diana sat frozen in the witness chair, watching herself on screen. "Ms. Mercer." Prosecutor Chen's voice was ice-cold. "Is that you in the video?" It's been manipulated. That's not what happened. The video shows you standing on a hospital bed spinning an IV bag connected to a sick child's arm. Are you telling this court that the video is fake?" "I'm telling this court that Marcus Cole is a liar and a criminal who will do anything to..." "Answer the question, Ms. Mercer. Is that you in the video?" Diana's composure cracked. Her face flushed red. Her hands gripped the arms of the witness chair. "Yes," she spat. "Yes, it's me. But you don't understand. You don't understand what I went through. That man..." She pointed at Marcus. "He used me. He brought me into his home to be a glorified nanny. He gave me money but no respect, no love, nothing. So you decided to kill his daughter as revenge." "I wasn't trying to kill her. I just wanted to keep her sick. Just long enough to secure my position, to make sure Marcus needed me." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Diana's attorneys jumped to their feet shouting objections. But it was too late. Diana had just confessed. The rest of the trial was a formality. Diana's lawyers attempted damage control, but there was nothing to control. Their client had admitted to poisoning a child on the witness stand in front of 12 jurors and a packed gallery of reporters. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the verdict was read, Diana sat motionless. No tears, no screams, no dramatic breakdown. She just stared straight ahead, her face blank like a mannequin whose strings had been cut. Marcus felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just a hollow emptiness where his rage used to be. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Marcus attended alone. Constance stayed home with Zara. He didn't want his daughter anywhere near this. Diana stood before the judge in her orange jumpsuit. Her hair was limp, her face was bare. She looked 10 years older than she had at the start of the trial. "Ms. Mercer, do you have anything to say before I pronounce sentence?" Diana looked at the judge. Then she turned and looked at Marcus. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the courtroom. "Yes, Your Honor." Diana's voice was calm, measured. "I want to say something to Marcus Cole." The judge nodded. Diana stepped closer to the barrier separating her from the gallery. Her eyes never left Marcus's face. "You think you've won," she said quietly. "You think this is over. But let me tell you something, Marcus. What I did to Zara, you helped me do it." "Ms. Mercer," the judge warned. "No, let me finish." Diana's voice rose. "Every time you got on a plane, every time you chose a meeting over a meal with your daughter, every time you signed a permission slip without reading it, you gave me the keys to that child's life. And I used them." She leaned forward, her eyes burning. "I may be going to prison. But you have to live with the knowledge that you let this happen. That your daughter was tortured for 4 months and you didn't notice. How does that feel, Marcus? How does it feel to know that your ambition almost killed your little girl?" Marcus stood up. His voice was steady. "You're right." Diana blinked, surprised. "You're right about everything." Marcus continued. "I was a terrible father. I was absent. I was blind. I chose my company over my daughter again and again, and because of that, you were able to hurt her." He stepped into the aisle facing Diana directly. "But here's the difference between you and me, Diana. I can change. I can learn. I can spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to Zara." He paused. You'll spend the rest of your life in a cell, knowing that you had everything, beauty, intelligence, opportunity, and you used it all to torture a child." Diana's face twisted with rage. "So yes," Marcus said. "I helped create the circumstances that allowed you to do what you did, and I'll carry that guilt forever. But I'll carry it as a free man with my daughter by my side, while you rot alone." He turned his back on her and sat down. The judge cleared her throat. "Diana Mercer, for the crimes of aggravated child abuse, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit fraud, I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole." Diana screamed. It was a raw animal sound, the sound of someone who had finally lost everything and knew it. Guards rushed forward to restrain her as she thrashed and cursed, spewing venom at Marcus, at the judge, at everyone in the courtroom. They dragged her toward the side door. Just before she disappeared, she twisted around for one last look at Marcus. "This isn't over!" she shrieked. "You hear me? This isn't—" The door slammed shut, cutting off her voice. The courtroom fell silent. Marcus sat motionless, staring at the empty space where Diana had stood. It was over. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the end of a nightmare, and the beginning of the hardest work he'd ever done. He pulled out his phone and dialed home. "Constance, it's done. She got life." "Good." The old nurse's voice was gruff, but Marcus could hear the relief underneath. "Zara's been asking about you. When will you be home?" Marcus looked around the courtroom. Reporters were already rushing for the exits, eager to file their stories. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted questions. He ignored them all. "Tell her I'm on my way." He hung up and walked out of the courtroom, past the cameras and the microphones and the shouted questions. Outside, the sun was setting over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Marcus took a deep breath of cold air. Then he went home to his daughter. 6 months passed like water through open fingers. Marcus sold the company. All of it. Every share, every building, every contract with his name on it. The board had already pushed him out after the corruption scandal, but he didn't fight to get back in. He let it go, 23 years of empire building gone in a single signature. Richard Martinez thought he was crazy. "You're walking away from $400 million, the old lawyer had said, shaking his head. "You could fight this, Marcus. The bribery charges are still under investigation. Nothing's been proven." "I don't want to fight anymore." "Then what do you want?" Marcus had looked out the window of Richard's office, watching the Chicago skyline glitter in the afternoon sun. "I want to learn how to make pancakes without burning them." Richard had stared at him for a long moment. Then he'd laughed, a real laugh, the first Marcus had heard from him in months. "Well," Richard said, "I suppose that's as good a goal as any." The new house was in Oak Park, a quiet suburb 20 minutes from downtown. 3 bedrooms, a small backyard, a garage that Marcus had no idea what to do with since he'd sold his car collection along with everything else. Constance had her own room on the ground floor. She'd officially retired from nursing, but she still woke up at 5 a.m. every day and spent most of her time bossing Marcus around. "You call that a made bed?" she'd say, standing in Zara's doorway with her arms crossed. "I've seen neater work from a tornado." "I'm trying my best." "Try harder." But beneath the gruffness, Marcus could see the change in her. The permanent scowl had softened. Sometimes when she thought no one was watching, he'd catch her smiling at Zara, a small private smile that transformed her whole face. Zara's recovery was slow. Some days were good. She'd laugh at cartoons, draw pictures at the kitchen table, even let Marcus braid her hair while she watched videos on her tablet. Those days felt like miracles. Other days were hard. She'd wake up screaming from nightmares, convinced that Diana was standing at the foot of her bed. She'd refuse to eat, refuse to talk, refuse to do anything but curl up under her blankets and stare at the wall. On those days, Marcus didn't push. He'd sit outside her door close enough that she could hear him breathing, far enough that she didn't feel crowded. "I'm here when you're ready," he'd say through the door. "No rush." Sometimes it took hours. Sometimes it took all day. But eventually the door would crack open, and Zara's face would appear, tear-streaked, exhausted, but there. "Can we watch a movie?" she'd ask. "Any movie you want." They'd sit on the couch together, not touching, but close. Zara would pick something animated, usually with talking animals or magical kingdoms, and Marcus would pretend to be invested, even when he had no idea what was happening. It didn't matter. What mattered was being there. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo became a fixture in their lives. A child psychologist recommended by Dr. Foster, she visited the house twice a week to work with Zara. She was a tall Nigerian woman with warm eyes and an easy laugh that put everyone at ease. "Your daughter is resilient," Dr. Okonkwo told Marcus after one of their sessions. "More resilient than she knows. But the trauma she experienced, it doesn't just disappear. It lives in the body, in the nervous system. Healing takes time." "How much time?" "As much as it needs." Dr. Okonkwo studied him. "The question isn't really about Zara, Mr. Cole. The question is whether you can be patient enough to walk this road with her. Without shortcuts. Without trying to fix everything with money or grand gestures." Marcus thought about all the toys he'd bought over the years. The dolls, the gadgets, the expensive trips to Disney World. All his attempts to purchase a daughter's love. "I'm learning," he said. "Good. Keep learning." Spring arrived with a sudden explosion of color. The trees in the backyard burst into bloom, pink and white blossoms drifting across the grass like snow. Marcus had never paid attention to seasons before, he'd always been too busy. But now he noticed everything. The way the light changed throughout the day. The sound of birds in the morning. The smell of rain on warm concrete. Zara noticed too. "Can we plant a garden?" she asked one Saturday morning, looking out the kitchen window at the bare patch of dirt beside the fence. Marcus had never planted anything in his life. He'd had people for that landscapers, gardeners, maintenance crews. "Sure," he said. "What do you want to grow?" Sunflowers and tomatoes, and maybe some of those purple flowers that butterflies like. Lavender. Zara wrinkled her nose. No, not lavender. I don't like lavender. Marcus understood. Diana had always worn lavender perfume. Then we'll plant something else, whatever you want. They went to the garden center that afternoon, Marcus, Zara, and Constance, who insisted on coming to make sure they didn't buy anything stupid. Zara wandered through the aisles, touching leaves and smelling flowers. Marcus followed behind her, pushing a cart that was slowly filling with seed packets, potting soil, and small gardening tools. "She seems better," Constance said quietly, falling into step beside him. "Some days." "That's how healing works. Some days." The old nurse watched Zara examine a tray of seedlings. "You're doing better too." "Am I?" "You haven't checked your phone once since we got here." Marcus realized she was right. The phone was in his pocket, silent, forgotten. 6 months ago, he would have been glued to it: emails, stock prices, urgent messages from the office. Now, it was just a piece of metal and glass. "I don't have anyone to call," he said. "That's not true." Constance fixed him with her sharp gaze. "You have people who matter. You just finally figured out who they are." They planted the garden that weekend. Marcus had no idea what he was doing. He dug holes in the wrong places, overwatered the seedlings, and somehow managed to get dirt in places dirt had no business being. But Zara laughed. For the first time in months, she really laughed, a clear, bright sound that echoed across the backyard and made Marcus's heart ache with joy. "Daddy, you're doing it wrong." "I know. Show me how to do it right." She took the trowel from his hands and demonstrated the proper technique, her small fingers working the soil with surprising confidence. "Where did you learn this?" Marcus asked. "YouTube." Zara shrugged. "I watch gardening videos sometimes, when I can't sleep." Marcus filed that information away. Another piece of his daughter's inner world that he'd never known about. "What else do you watch?" "Cooking videos, art tutorials, sometimes science stuff like how volcanoes work or why the sky is blue." "Really?" "Yeah." Zara patted soil around a tomato seedling. "I like learning things. Diana never let me watch educational stuff. She said it was boring, and I should watch cartoons like a normal kid." Marcus felt the familiar surge of anger at Diana's name, but he pushed it down. This wasn't about Diana anymore. "Well," he said carefully, "you can watch whatever you want now. Educational cartoons, whatever makes you happy." Zara looked up at him. Her eyes, those large brown eyes that had seen too much, held something new, something cautiously hopeful. "Really? Really? Your brain, your choice." She smiled, just a small smile barely there, and went back to her seedlings. But Marcus saw it, and it meant everything. Summer brought heat and humidity and long, lazy days that stretched into golden evenings. The garden flourished beyond anyone's expectations. Sunflowers shot up taller than Zara, their bright yellow faces tracking the sun across the sky. Tomatoes ripened on the vine. Butterflies, actual butterflies, visited the purple cone flowers Zara had chosen instead of lavender. "Look, Daddy," Zara called from the backyard one afternoon. "A monarch." Marcus came to the window. Zara stood perfectly still in the middle of the garden, a orange and black butterfly perched on her outstretched finger. "Don't move," he said, grabbing his phone. "Let me get a picture." "Hurry, it tickles." He snapped the photo just as the butterfly lifted off, spiraling up into the blue sky. Zara watched it go, her face full of wonder. "Constance says butterflies are symbols of change," she said. "I remember." Zara turned to look at him. "Do you think people can change? Like really change?" Marcus thought about the question. A year ago, he would have given a quick dismissive answer, something about how people are who they are, how you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But that was the old Marcus, the one who thought he had all the answers. "I think," he said slowly, "I think change is possible, but it's not easy. It takes work. And it takes wanting to change more than you want to stay the same. Did you change? I'm trying to. How do you know if it's working? Marcus looked at his daughter, really looked at her braids with the gold beads, at the dirt on her knees, at the sunlight in her eyes. I think you know it's working when the people you love start to trust you again. Zara was quiet for a moment. I trust you, she said finally. A little bit. A little bit is a good start. She nodded seriously. Then her face broke into a grin. Can we make lemonade? I'm thirsty. Race you to the kitchen. No fair. You have longer legs. Life isn't fair, baby girl. You gotta learn to run faster. Zara shrieked with laughter and took off toward the house. Marcus let her win. Fall arrived with cool breezes and changing leaves. Zara started 4th grade at the local elementary school, her first time in a regular classroom since her illness. Marcus walked her to school every morning and picked her up every afternoon, rain or shine. You don't have to walk with me, Zara said one morning. I'm 9 now. I can walk by myself. I know you can. So why do you still do it? Marcus thought about how to answer. Because I missed too many walks before, he said, and I don't want to miss any more. Zara considered this. Okay, she said. But can you not hold my hand in front of my friends? It's embarrassing. Deal. She started making friends. Slowly, at first, Zara was still cautious around new people, still quick to retreat into herself when things got overwhelming. But by October, she had a best friend named Maya, a chatty girl with thick glasses who loved the same anime shows Zara watched on YouTube. Can Maya come over this weekend? Zara asked at dinner one night. Marcus and Constance exchanged glances. Of course, Marcus said. What do you want to do with her? We're going to draw manga characters and maybe bake cookies. Can we bake cookies? I'll supervise, Constance said dryly. I've seen what happens when your father tries to cook. Hey, I've gotten better. The smoke alarm going off 3 times last week suggests otherwise. Zara giggled. It was such a normal sound, a kid laughing at her dad's failures, that Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. This, he thought. This is what I was missing all those years. This is what matters. Maya came over that Saturday. The 2 girls disappeared into Zara's room for hours, emerging only to raid the kitchen for snacks and announce their progress on an elaborate manga series they were creating together. It's about a girl who can talk to animals, Zara explained, holding up a drawing of a character with big eyes and flowing hair. She saves the world, but nobody believes her at first. They think she's weird, but then she proves them all wrong. Marcus looked at the drawing. The girl had dark skin and braided hair. She looks familiar, he said. Zara grinned. She's not me, but maybe a little bit me. I like her. You're supposed to. She's the hero. That night, after Maya went home and Zara was in bed, Marcus sat on the back porch with Constance. The air was crisp with the first hints of winter. Stars glittered overhead, more stars than Marcus had ever noticed in Chicago. She's going to be okay, Constance said. It wasn't a question. Yeah. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, I think she is. What about you? What do you mean? Constance turned to look at him. In the darkness, her face was all shadows and angles. I mean, what are you going to do with the rest of your life, Marcus Cole? You sold your company. You gave up your empire. You're 44 years old, with enough money to live comfortably forever. So what now? It was a question Marcus had been avoiding for months. The answer frightened him a little. I don't know, he admitted. For the first time in my adult life, I don't have a plan. No 5-year goals. No expansion strategies. No quarterly targets. Does that scare you? Terrifies me. Constance nodded. Good. Means you're paying attention. What do you mean? I mean that fear is useful. It keeps you honest. She stood up, brushing off her pants. The old Marcus, the one who flew around the world making deals, he wasn't scared of anything. He thought he had it all figured out. And look where that got him. A 9-year-old who flinches when I move too fast. Among other things, Constance headed for the door. Fear is good, Marcus. It means you understand what you have to lose. Just don't let it paralyze you. She went inside, leaving Marcus alone with the stars. He thought about what she'd said, about fear, about loss, about the life he'd built and the life he was building now. The old Marcus had been fearless because he'd never truly loved anything. Not really. He'd loved the idea of success, the thrill of the deal, the satisfaction of winning. But those were abstract things. You couldn't hurt them. They couldn't hurt you. Zara was different. Zara was real. She could be hurt, had been hurt, and that made loving her the most terrifying thing Marcus had ever done, but also the most important. Winter came early that year. Snow blanketed Oak Park in a thick white silence, transforming the neighborhood into a postcard. Zara had never seen this much snow before. Her years in foster care, and then in the hospital, had robbed her of so many normal childhood experiences. "Can we build a snowman?" she asked, pressing her face against the window. "It's cold out there." "I know. That's the point." They bundled up and went outside. Marcus had no idea how to build a proper snowman. His childhood had been spent in indoor activities preparing for the business world, but he tried his best. "The base needs to be bigger," Zara instructed. "And rounder. You're making it look like a potato." "I'm doing my best." "Your best looks like a potato." Constance watched from the porch, bundled in a heavy coat, shaking her head at their efforts. "You two are hopeless," she called. "The head is supposed to go on top of the body." "We know that." "Then why is it on the side?" "It's an artistic choice." An hour later, they had something that vaguely resembled a snowman if you squinted and used your imagination. Zara declared it perfect. "We should name him," she said. "How about Frosty?" "That's boring. Everyone names their snowman Frosty." "Then you pick." Zara studied their creation thoughtfully. "Gerald," she decided. "He looks like a Gerald. Gerald it is." They took a picture with Gerald. Marcus printed it out and hung it on the refrigerator next to all the other pictures: the butterfly, the garden, Zara's first day of school, her birthday party with Maya, and 3 other friends. A gallery of normal moments. Ordinary days. The things Marcus had spent decades thinking were beneath him. Now they were everything. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and the smell of cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. Constance had been up since dawn preparing what she called a proper holiday breakfast. Zara came downstairs in her pajamas, her eyes still heavy with sleep. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs, staring at the tree in the living room. "It's bigger than last year," she said. "Is that okay?" She nodded slowly. "It's pretty. I like the star." They opened presents together, nothing extravagant, despite Marcus's bank account. Zara had asked for art supplies, books, and a set of gardening tools for the spring. Marcus had added a few surprises: a telescope for stargazing, a chemistry set for her science interests, and a framed photo of the butterfly on her finger. "This is from the garden," Zara said, holding up the photo. "Yep. I remember that day." She traced the butterfly with her finger. "It was the first time I felt like maybe everything was going to be okay." Marcus didn't trust himself to speak. He just nodded. Constance emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Food's ready. And there's one more present. Under the tree. In the back." Zara crawled behind the tree and emerged with a small wrapped package. She looked at the tag. "It says it's for all of us, from Constance." "Open it." Inside was a framed photograph. Not a recent one. This was old, faded clearly from decades ago. It showed a young black woman in a nurse's uniform holding a baby girl. "That's me," Constance said quietly. 30 years ago. And that's my daughter, Rosemary." Marcus looked at the old nurse. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I told you I had a daughter once. I told you I didn't protect her." Constance's voice was steady, but barely. "Her father was a difficult man. I didn't see it at first. By the time I did, it was too late. She was 16 when she ran away. I never saw her again." "Constance," Marcus started. "Let me finish." She took a breath. "I spent 30 years carrying that guilt. 30 years wondering if she was alive, if she was happy, if she'd forgiven me. And then I met Zara." She looked at the little girl who was listening with wide eyes. "When I saw what that woman was doing to you, something in me woke up. I thought, not again, not this time. I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I could save someone else's." Zara stood up and walked to Constance. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around the old woman's waist. Constance made a sound half laugh, half sob, and hugged her back. "You saved me," Zara said, her voice muffled against Constance's apron. "You and Daddy both saved me." Marcus watched them embrace. His throat was tight. His eyes were wet. This was his family. Not the one he'd been born into. Not the one he'd tried to buy. But the one he'd earned through failure and forgiveness, through patience and pain. It was broken and imperfect and patched together from scraps. It was everything. Later that night, after the dishes were washed and the wrapping paper collected, Marcus sat on the edge of Zara's bed. "Did you have a good Christmas?" he asked. "The best. Better than Disney World." Zara thought about it. Different, not bigger or fancier, just better. "I think I understand." She scooted over and patted the space beside her. "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" Marcus lay down on top of the covers, his feet hanging off the end of the twin bed. Zara curled up beside him, her head on his shoulder. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby girl. I love you." 3 words. So simple, so small. And yet they cracked something open in Marcus's chest, something that had been locked tight for longer than he could remember. "I love you too, Zara, more than anything in the world." She was quiet for a moment. "I know," she said finally. "I believe you now." Marcus felt tears sliding down his temples into his hair. He didn't wipe them away. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for believing me." But Zara was already asleep, her breathing slow and peaceful, her hand resting on his chest, right over his heart. Marcus lay there for a long time, listening to his daughter breathe. Outside, snow fell softly on Oak Park. The house was warm. The refrigerator was covered in photographs. Gerald the snowman stood guard in the front yard, slowly being buried under fresh powder. Somewhere in a prison cell, Diana Mercer stared at concrete walls, counting the years she had left. But Marcus didn't think about Diana. He didn't think about the company he'd sold, or the money he'd lost, or the empire he'd walked away from. He thought about burned pancakes and purple bedrooms, about butterflies and sunflowers, and gardening videos on YouTube, about a grumpy old nurse who'd become family, about a drawing in black crayon, a girl with no face, and how far they'd both come since that terrible night. He thought about the weight of a pinky finger hooked around his. Such a small thing, such an infinite thing. Marcus closed his eyes and let sleep take him. For the first time in years, he didn't dream about boardrooms or balance sheets or the next big deal. He dreamed about gardens in summer, about laughter in the kitchen, about a little girl who had learned to trust again. And when he woke the next morning to the smell of Constance's coffee and the sound of Zara singing off-key in the bathroom. Marcus Cole, former billionaire, former workaholic, former absent father, smiled. He had lost everything he once thought mattered, and in return, he had found the only thing that ever did. His daughter, his family, his second chance, and this time he was never letting go. The greatest wealth isn't measured in dollars or deals, it's measured in the moments we choose to be present. in the hands we choose to hold, in the trust we earn one day at a time. Because in the end, the only empire worth building is the one made of love.